In this lecture, I just want to give you some important tips how you can work efficient and clean, because at the end of the day, it's very important that we get done a lot of things during the day and that we use our time very efficient. And that's why I created that lecture, to give you some little tips and tricks that I think that are of high importance. So let's have a look onto my screen. Good tips for working efficient and clean. First, define all requirements from the beginning and document them. And this has nothing to do if you work for your own projects or for clients on Fiverr, for example. But make sure you have all the requirements, at least on a little paper, to make sure you go back to it every now and then to make sure you stay on track. Because sometimes during the process of working, we can get lost in our own work, and at one point we forget what we actually want to do. And when we always have a little paper showing us our requirements, we make sure that day by day we stay focused and we go into the right direction. Point number 2 is a little bit similar. Always keep the final result in mind. For example, skin color, body type, and so on, and avoid rework. Because you will notice when you start creating a lot of images, for example, for a client, for a certain influencer, and so on, at one point you forgot a little bit, okay, what is actually the look of the influencer or the person, whatever. And then you just think, ah, this is a nice image, and this is also a nice image, and you save them and you save them. And in the end, you realize, oh, many of them actually don't look too similar, or you can't use that image because of that, and the body is different. And in the end, you have also a lot of rework. So I recommend you that every time you generate images for a project, before you save them, you access how much rework will it be to make this image perfect for my client or for myself, and would I be better off by just recreating the whole image. And by that you will save a lot of rework time in the end, and you make sure you actually stay on track and you get your work done as fast as possible. The third point is also very, very important. Note the seed number, prompt, and also negative prompt of important images. And this has to do with the reproducibility. Because, for example, if you create a nice image, then you show it to a client and it was actually just a draft. And then the client says, oh my God, I just love this image. And you don't have the seed number and you don't have the prompt, it's very difficult to recreate exactly that image. So just make sure of your best works, that you have everything saved and that you can reproduce your best works. Work neatly and in an organized manner, and this goes especially for the folder structure, because when we create thousands of images at one point, it can be very confusing. Okay, which are the draft, which are the delivery images, which are my personal project, which are my client projects. And I recommend you to make a crystal clear folder structure with client work, your own work, drafts, and final images, and so on. And also, if you have several stages of editing, for example, of an image, it's important to make sure you always know at what stage a certain image is. For example, if you start editing and you start changing the eyes, changing the hands, changing the clothing, and so on, and at one point you realize, okay, you have to go back to a certain stage of that process and you don't know actually where you find the image, this is a problem. So make sure you have a nice organized working structure. And the last point is occasionally delete old drafts, because after a while you will have a ton of images, and even though your computer might have a lot of space, it's recommended to delete the images every now and then, at least old drafts, because otherwise at one point your computer will be totally filled with old images and your system gets slower and slower. So it's important to have always enough space on your computer that everything is running nice and smooth.